Welcome to the Ask Ken show. I am so excited to have you. If you're watching this, we have Iona here. Hi, Iona, say hi.
Hello.
Hello, welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be, I guess, I don't know, co hosting this with you and playing the role of the interviewer, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
super excited to have you here today. So, cool story. This is the Ask Ken show of channelinginc.com. Please feel free to check out my website and for all sorts of online events that I do on a regular basis. And really cool story with Iona and I. We actually went to, what is it, elementary school today together?
Elementary school. Yep. Grade one, two, and three. So we go back a way bit.
Yeah, it's really cool because I've been pursuing like spirituality since 2004 and training people how to channel for like over 20 years now, which is really exciting. And, I'd have, somebody in my workshop who's kind of seen me for a few years or was recommended, or I see them at a Spirit Expo, like 8 years ago or 12 years ago, and then they show up at one of my workshops and I'm like, oh yeah. So like I asked the group at the beginning to share how you heard about me, how you know me, and then what you're interested about in my channeling workshops and stuff like that. And I go around the room and asking people to share. And like I've had people be like, "Oh yeah, I've known Ken for like 8 years or 3 years. Or I saw him way back at this expo, and then now it's time, so I'm doing it now." And it's been like 12 years or something like that. And then Iona comes along. And it's been over, yeah, I don't know how long now. So I'd have to do the math, but
I mean,
30.
82 for sure would be a one
Yeah,
year. To,
yeah. So
yeah.
80,
So do the math.
90, 30 years. Yeah. So she
Yeah.
she by far wins the longest ever by far. So which is super exciting. Anyways, if you're watching this, this is called the Ask Ken Show. What the way that this works is you go ahead and you type in your questions into the chat box, and when the questions come up, then what Iona will do is she will ask those questions, uh, have them asked, and then also put your name and where you're from, and we will give you a shout out, which is super exciting. Yeah, let's start with our first question. Go ahead, Iona.
Yeah, sure. So, our first question is if you are manifesting, does that mean you are following guidance from your spirit guides?
Most of the time, yes. Actually, that's a really good question. Um, So the answer is yes. What happens is most of us we are channeling our spirit guides without even realizing it. And there's a couple things I want to clarify on that because a lot of times we give credit to things external of us, or the other way, the other extreme is we give 100% credit to us. Like I've seen both extremes where people are always like, "Oh yeah, it's just me. I just follow my intuition. I follow my intuition," and they have no clue. They're totally
Yeah.
clueless that there could be like spirit guides and other things helping them and supporting them and guiding them along their journey. So then what happens is they think it's just all them. And then I've seen the other extreme where I've seen people just give credit to everything external, but they don't take credit themselves. And both are true in this case. Ooh, I'm getting goosebumps everywhere. Woo-hoo!
Yeah.
Someone just showed up. Oh,
Yep.
that's who showed
Hi,
up.
Danielle from Alberta, Canada.
Danielle. Woohoo! I'm like
Yeah.
getting goosebumps. And so let me clarify. Our spirit guides, when you die and you cross over, you'll go to the astral realm to be with your soul family. And while you're incarnated, certain members of our soul family will help and assist us. And these are our spirit guides. And each spirit guide helps us in a different way, different capacity, different areas of our life. And they're people like you and I in non-physical form. So they are people. And now we actually have technology that can capture them on camera, which is super exciting. I come from an IT background and I love that. So we when we as we're navigating our life and going through our life, we actually have our spirit guides that are actually helping us and assisting us, and that are working with us to help us like go through different times in our life, whether we're aware of it or not. Like I just recently recorded a video. It's where like in a whole entire like 5-minute video on how one of my students asked. She said, "Well, even if we don't know that we have spirit guides, are we still being guided by them?" And the answer is yes, absolutely. And this is one of the examples of if you're manifesting, most likely it's because you're following either your own guidance and or your spirit guide's guidance. And they're helping you and supporting you through that manifestation of whatever it is, which is super exciting. What's really powerful though is when you actually get to know your spirit guide team and you know which one of your spirit guides is actually helping you in that certain instance or has, helped you to manifest whatever it is. The most important thing about manifestation, there's two things. One is you're going to get inspiration or inspired, but the most important thing out of all that is to take action. And just sometimes, like, you're not always going to be 100% correct, but a lot of times it's better just to take action and do something rather than nothing. And that's really important to do that, like actually take action and start moving towards your goals and your aspirations. And I've seen it 1,000 times where too many people, they start on a path but they don't do something long enough and persistent enough and consistent enough to actually gain any traction to get anywhere significant. So they're just kind of like spin their wheels, or they start for a bit and then they stop and then they give up. And it's like, no, don't give up. Like, the miracle is just about to happen, or they might, have a hurdle or obstacle or something like that. And that's all part of
Mm.
it. Like anyone who runs a business knows that you're going to have hurdles, you're going to have struggles, you're going to have times when you don't feel like doing it, but you do it anyways, or things will happen. And it's just like that. It's like that in anything or any kind of goals. A lot of goals are like that. And so your spirit guides can help you to navigate those hurdles or those obstacles or those things that you're struggling with as you're going along that path, as you're going along your trajectory. They can help you navigate through all that. So that's a really important tip. What I want to talk about is there's three different, in general, for intuition, there's three different places or sources where you can get your information from. One is from your soul, which is in the center of your like sternum area right here. The next is from your higher self, which is about a foot above your head. And then the other area that you can get information from is your spirit guides. And then when you learn where specifically you're getting guidance from on a regular basis, then what you could do is you can hone into that more deeper. So if your soul is trying to give you guidance on its purpose, why it's here, how it wants to, what it wants to achieve and accomplish it in this lifetime, then you can like tune in, look down with your eyes, feel into your soul, get quiet, hear those quiet whispers of the soul, and try to get guidance from your soul. Like try to like tune into it. And then the same thing with your higher self. Tune in if you know that, oh, you're like checking in with channeling, and this is why channeling is so important, is because then when you're getting that inspiration, you could figure out and ask, where is this coming from? And, oh, it's coming from my higher self. Okay, let's tune into my higher self. Let's actually connect with it. Let's increase my connection. Let's find out if it could give me more information. So your higher self's really an interesting part of you or aspect of you. It's an aspect of you that basically it's like a spirit guide, but it's not a spirit guide. So it's an aspect of you that acts like a spirit guide. It actually resides in the astral realm, which is the same realm where your spirit guides operate, and also 1 foot above your head in this earth plane. But when we tune into our higher self can give this higher perspective. Most of the time, our higher self will also give like confidence and inspiration and positive motivation, things like that to help us, inspire us and along our journey. And then there's our spirit guides, and our spirit guides, our souls, are people like you and I in non-physical form, and they can help and assist us in these different areas and different ways of our life. So then what happens is manifesting in the general doesn't happen just by accident. It's usually if you think of it like from a astral level, and you can do this right now if you want. If you're watching this, just kind of maybe close your eyes for a moment and just feel how your spirit guides operate from the astral realm. And that's the fourth dimension. And what happens is they're able to see things that are maneuvering and moving in ways that are like, have you ever been like, you're desiring something like, I don't know, oh, I want like an ice cream or something. And then all of a sudden, you know, you're like, oh, somebody offers you an ice cream. I don't know, like something like that or something like that. You're just like, this has happened to me so many times in a month where I'm like desiring something and wanting something. And your spirit guides from their astral level perspective, they can see how the pieces are moving and they're coming together so that these things can happen. Um, It does take work though. Like one of the things that in the law of attraction that I want to really emphasize when those movies came out and those books came out is a lot of times people like they talk about just sitting there and meditating, and please do all that, feel the feelings of you already having it, go through all the basics and stuff like that, and then start taking action, 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 action. I heard one of my mentors say that he's seen over the decades that he's been training people that the most successful people in the world are ones that take massive action, massive action.
Mhm.
And I like
Mhm.
to add a little bit to that is not just any kind of action, because there's a lot of people that I meet that are, trying to get their business up and running, whatever kind of business it might be. And they're doing a lot of action, but they're not doing action that gets results. So they'll do like behind the scenes kind of stuff, and it's nothing wrong with that. Do that as well. But I tell people like if you don't have any paid clients, you don't have a business. That's
Right.
the bottom line. So do the things that are going to get you the paid clients, and then while you're working with paid clients, then you do things like building your website, or these behind the scenes things. For me, it might be like, developing another level or curriculum or something like that. Like there's, all those kinds of things that I could be doing all these things that I'm busy, but I need to be focusing on also what's also, running a business, operating a business, and what my priorities are. How do I find out what those are? I check with my spirit guides. And they'll be like, yeah, yeah, I can do this, do that. And then while you're doing all that, then you're also channeling your spirit guides to get guidance on how to your long-term goals, your long-term vision, what you really want to do with your life. And manifestation is kind of fun because it's kind of like, let's say, for example, you're single and you're looking for a partner. One of the things I recommend to my single friends, so if any of you are single, give me a shout out, say hi. Um, One of the things that I recommend that you do is a lot of times people are like, oh, I want a boyfriend or I want a girlfriend or whatever. And instead of doing that, what I recommend you do is keep focusing on yourself, keep focusing on your goals, keep focusing on your dreams, your aspirations, and also do your healing and clearing along the way and your spiritual upgrades. That's why I have like my Ascension group healing on a monthly basis. So people have a forum, a place that they can go and do these kinds of things on a regular basis. But what I want
Highly
my,
recommend them. I
yeah.
highly recommend them. I'm a regular at his Ascension groups, and I highly recommend them. Yep.
And it works. It helps. It really does.
It does. Yeah.
Because what you want to do is that um, if you're trying to attract a partner, for example, what I recommend is keep working on yourself so that you keep going like leveling up, and getting healthier and clearer and all that. And then this way, when you do attract someone, you're more likely to attract someone at your level rather than just any kind of level maybe before. And that's a really important point is part of the law of manifestation is what we do internally. When we keep
Yes.
working internally and keep working on feeling like really good positive feelings, and this is why if you're watching this and you want to take notes, one of the things I recommend you write down is try to add joy to my day every day. Try to add joy to my life every day. And the reason why, like I watch comedy, I try to laugh. Like today I was laughing, I was having some fun today. And I try to keep things light and fun. And don't get me wrong, there's times when we just have crappy periods of our life, whatever. But even those times are the times we need to add some joy and fun even more. And so I'll purposely
Mhm.
watch like some stand-up comedy. I was watching some yesterday, probably a little bit sketchy, but oh well, it's still fun. I grew up before the cancel culture generation, so it's all good. But it's all in good intention. It's not anything like, malicious. Anyways, but add joy to your life. I'm also going to be, going dancing later on today, and things like that. So like things that can add like lots of joy. I don't get, you know, everything could be all work, 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 work. And don't get me wrong, that's important as well. Taking massive action towards your goals and your aspirations. But once in a while, try to add some things that are going to fill the soul, feed the soul, and just
Balance.
yeah, balance and take a bit of time to really be intentional about how can I raise my vibration and how can I do things that are really good and healthy for me. So that's really, really, really important.
Yes. So I see we have a few more questions. So
Yeah.
Peter, yeah, Peter is asking, can you explain spiritual upgrades? What are what they are and what happens when one gets an upgrade.
Good question. Welcome, Peter. Thank you for tuning in. Peter's from California. He's taken most of my trainings. Yeah, he's on all the way up to level 3, which is exciting. So awesome. Thank you. Thank you for showing
Okay.
up.
Congratulations, Peter.
Yeah, great question. Spiritual upgrades, there's a lot of different kinds of spiritual upgrades. It's not just one kind. When you know how to channel, then one of the things I teach my students in my mastermind classes is actually how to give spiritual upgrades, enhancements, attunements, and all that. So there's a bunch of different kinds. The most common kind that I usually have to give to my students are what's called attunements. If you've ever heard of Reiki, I used to certify Reiki masters and all that, and now the healing training that I teach, the modalities that I teach in my later levels is way beyond Reiki. And I work with an archangel. It's a symbols archangel. And he helps me to identify what attunements, what symbols the students need the most, or the student, depending if it's a one-on-one or in a group setting. And then I check, or like in the Ascension group healing, for example, I give a lot of spiritual upgrades during those as well. And I'm checking with the symbols archangel who's in touch with your spirit guides. And between the two of them, your spirit guides and the archangel, they determine what spiritual upgrades you need the most for this, what attunements you need the most for this season of your life, this period of your life, to help you really take your growth, your ascension. So if you think of it this way, okay, we have healing and clearing. You get healthier, you get clearer. A lot of those traumas and those things that are tainting your life and are affecting you, unhealthy behaviors. I could go on and on. It could affect us, anxiety, depression. I could just go on. There's so many things that could be affecting us. And that's where the healing and clearing comes in. And then there's the spiritual upgrades. So if you think of the spiritual upgrades, it's like, okay, I'm going along my path and I'm going like this, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's totally fine. But the spiritual upgrades help to really accelerate that path. Let's get that curve way higher, way faster, bigger, faster growth to really accelerate how quickly you're ascending and how quickly you're evolving on a soul level, on a spiritual level. And that's why I include the spiritual upgrades. Another one is called an activation. Activations are basically, if you think of it like you're taking like let me do this, see if I can do this here. So it's almost like you're taking a certain part of the person and then you're activating it, which means you're basically like turning up the light. So you're just basically like cranking it up, making it brighter, stronger, and you're increasing it so it's like maxed out. And that's like an activation. There's a bunch of more spiritual upgrades that I often give. Some are like increasing the capacity for the person to ground. What's happened is sometimes the grounding capacity is maxed out and they can't go beyond, like it's limiting them. So if you think of you have like a stock, like an old Honda Civic or something like that, and you have the stock factory parts. Well, then it's like, okay, well, I'm trying to soup up, I'm trying to have my Honda Civic go faster, but then what I can do is I can take out one of the things that's limiting it or stopping it from going faster and quicker. Let's say I upgrade the carburetor. So I take out the carb, and I put in a new carburetor, and then that new souped up one allows it to go even further and faster and all that. And so sometimes when I check individuals, I've been able to identify over 100 different non-physical aspects that make up a person, like spiritual aspects, but not only what those aspects are, but what they do, what their functions are, whether they need healing or clearing, or whether they need any spiritual upgrades. And so in this example is that sometimes I've come across people, and this happened to me in my early days where I wasn't able to ground properly. There's two ways that we ground. One is through our root chakra and one is through our feet. And sometimes one of those ways aren't like let's say it's the feet. Sometimes I've had it where it actually doesn't extend out into the root, the root, the what would you call that thing? It's basically, it doesn't have the infrastructure in place to be able to ground properly through your feet. And so what I have
Yeah.
to do is build that up and then pull it through and then ground it so that they actually have the capacity and the ability to ground. So that's a more of a healing modality. And then also same thing with their root chakra, where there's a cord that comes out of your root chakra. It should be able to go deep down into the center of the earth and wrap around the core of the center of the earth and then make it nice and taut. But if that cord coming out of your root chakra is frayed or like really thin and it's not quite healthy, then that's going to cause a problem. So then sometimes that needs healing as well. But let's take, for example, in this case, that both the way that you ground through your feet and the way that you ground through your root and all that's fine, everything's good, but that doesn't mean the capacity for you to ground is as strong as it can be, and that's limiting you and stopping you from growing and expanding even further. So then what I will do is I'll, with the help of some, like there's a grounding archangel that I work with in particular that helps me with this, is I can increase. Woohoo! Yeah, they like that.
That was cool.
I can increase the capacity of your grounding so that the the roots that come out of your feet are actually thicker and stronger and can go deeper. And then the cord that comes out of your root chakra can actually be much wider and can wrap around that earth nice, even stronger, the core of the center of the earth, and then make it nice and taut. So that's some really powerful ways that we can do upgrading. There's another aspect, I could go on and on and on about this, but I'll give one
Yeah.
more example. Is there's an aspect of you, it's called the transmitter receiver junction box. And that aspect is, think of it like a hub or a router that you have in your home, and then it has all these cables that go out and they go, connect to different things. So that's the aspect of you that is the component that connects to your spiritual connections. And so two things that I've noticed that can happen with a person's transmitter receiver junction box, the most common things are it needs healing, like the junction box is actually not as healthy as it can be. So then they're glitching and all that other stuff, and they're not connecting. Or the cables themselves, the channels that are going out to these different spiritual connections aren't as healthy as they can be. So sometimes either the junction box needs healing or the cables themselves need healing. But sometimes, you ready for this? Sometimes the actual junction box itself needs an upgrade. So it's like kind of like how you have your router or hub that you have in your home, and you've had it there for like maybe 5 years or 10 years. And now sometimes you just need to, like, okay, let's take that one out, let's put a new one in, and then you have a brand new upgraded 2.0 version or 3.0 version, and a more modern one. And that's often what I'll do is I'll upgrade their transmitter receiver junction box. I don't take the old one out. I just upgrade the one that's already there. And
Mhm.
and then now all of a sudden, poof, like their connections are just phenomenal. Basically, it's so cool. Yeah,
Cool.
and I could go on and on. There's a whole bunch of
Yep.
spiritual upgrades that I give. Sometimes I upgrade their chakra system, or I'll upgrade their auric field for protection reasons, make it more thicker, more resilient, things like that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So going along the same lines for your spiritual upgrades and stuff, what are some of the effects and or signs of you ascending, like receiving these spiritual upgrades and stuff? So what?
Yeah, so let's say, for example, we go back to the grounding one. I've met,
Mhm.
and I think we all know somebody who's very flighty and very like, ah, and you're like, just
Mhm.
relax, and you try to get them to relax, but they can't. It might be their fault, but a lot of times it's not. It's a lot of times they're doing it because they can't help it. And then I know for me, like one of the way, 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 way back in the day, I kept trying to ground. I couldn't ground for the life of me. Like it didn't matter. I tried to do all the processes. Like people be like, okay, this is how you ground. And I tried. It wouldn't work. And it wasn't
Mhm.
until I came across another healer who was like, Ken, no wonder you're not able to ground. Like you don't have the infrastructure in place to be able to ground properly. So then once worked together with doing the healing on that, then I was like able to ground. And then now when I actually try to ground, I can actually do it. So that's one of the examples. Another one of the examples is um, the benefits or the positives of doing these regular spiritual upgrades is, let's say, for example, if you're an empath is somebody who's highly sensitive to people, places, things, environments, and all that. And they're feeling like getting bombarded by, different energies. Are they walking? Have you ever like, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but have you ever walked into a room and it's so thick where you feel like you could just cut the air in there?
Yep. Yep. You
And
can
it,
just
and it's
feel the
just like,
tension in the
you're
air.
like,
Yeah.
you're like, whoa, what happened? What went down in this room? Like, you're like, oh, right.
Hmm.
And that means you're an empath. If you can feel that, um,
Or when
when
people walk in the room, you can feel
the energy
like,
shift.
yeah, it's suddenly like either it's like high energy or sometimes it, like you said, it gets thick and yeah.
Yeah, when I channel and I check, I get there's about 11% of the world's population are empaths, so about 1 in 10. Not everyone is. If
Mhm.
you experience what Iona and I just talked about, where you walk into a room and you could feel that thickness or whatever, or you feel someone else walk in the room and you can all of a sudden feel that change, that's not common. A lot of people can't feel that. So you're one of those 1 out of 10. And most of the clients that come to me are empaths. And what happens though is I can do healing and clearing on the person all I want. I just keep clearing out the old, but then they keep getting bombarded by these new energies. Like one other example that's a good example of being an empath is like, do you ever like feel like somebody's watching you and you're like, I feel like somebody's watching me. And then you're like, is there someone? So you turn around and you look, and sure enough, there's somebody watching you. And you're like, oh, see, I knew it. That means you're an empath. And there's a lot of other signs also to being an empath.
Mhm.
But what can happen is I can do healing and clearing on the person on a weekly, daily basis, even because they just keep getting more that like accumulating all this energies from external places or other people's emotions. They're feeling it and it's overwhelming them. But when I do an upgrade, a spiritual upgrade in this case, what I do is I do this very intentionally. Is there's a whole bunch of it's actually I'm going to be doing an entire training on this on psychic protection, spiritual protection, and all that. But there's a way that I can upgrade their different aspects, like their chakras and the chakras. Your chakras are one of the many aspects that are connected to your auric field. Because if your chakras aren't healthy and strong, then it's going to affect your auric field, which is your main protection system. And so that's going to be all like wonky and glitchy and all that. So we have to make sure that that's good. And then also, if your auric field's good, or if your auric field is not good, but your chakras are good, you're still going to feel all that. So that's one example of many examples. But what I do in this case is I check their chakras, the person's client's chakras, and I make sure that not only are they healthy and that they're clear and flowing and all that stuff, but then I also check to see if there's any spiritual upgrades that their chakras need. And then what I do is I make sure that the connections from the chakras to the auric field are really strong, it's solid, it's holding it in place. But then I also check the auric field. And oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes you'd be surprised, Iona, how thin the person's auric field is. I'm like, whoa, no wonder you're feeling all these people's emotions and you're getting overwhelmed and it's hard to regulate it because you don't know whose is what. Is it yours? Is it someone else's? Um, and so think of it like a barrier and it's really thin. And part of the upgrading process is really making it nice and thick and helping that person be more resilient to external energies and external
Mhm.
influences. Super powerful. So that's one of the many, many, many examples I could give of how spiritual upgrades can help us.
Mhm.
Another big benefit is that it really helps us with our spiritual ascension, our spiritual evolution, our connection to our spirit guides, our connection to ascended masters, and to sprites and fairies and dragons and angels and all those other different things that we could channel on a regular basis. That's usually a very common one of how
Mhm.
spiritual upgrades. Oh, and then other ways that spiritual upgrades help us, which is what really cool that I've seen, is it often can help accelerate the healing that we're going through.
Yeah,
Like we're on this healing trajectory, but by putting
100% agree with
us
you. Yeah.
yeah, by putting a spiritual upgrade in, it can really help to enhance the growth and the
Mhm.
accelerate the not the growth, but the speed of the healing and the depth of the
Yes.
healing as well. Because I've
Yep.
had times I'm trying to heal something on somebody, I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, oh wait, I need to give them a spiritual upgrade. So I do the spiritual upgrade, and then I'm like, oh, okay, that's what that spiritual upgrade is for, is for to help propagate the healing even quicker, even faster, and even deeper. And then when I do the healing component of it, I can go way in there. And I'm like, it just loosens everything up. More than just loosens, it does a whole bunch of other things often. So that's,
Mhm.
yeah, I could just go on and on. I love spiritual upgrades.
Yep. Yep. Spiritual upgrades are amazing. So just you did happen to mention ascended masters. So Peter's next question he had was, what are your thoughts on ascended masters and what's the difference with spirit guides? Or how are they different from spirit guides?
Yeah, great question. A lot of times people want to like, why would they channel spirit guides when they could go straight to ascended masters or angels or anything like that? And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. The biggest reason why I want people to channel their spirit guides is because if you think of it on a soul level, is when we die and we incarnate, we go to the astral realm. Certain members of our soul family will help and assist us. These are spirit guides, and they're kind of like assigned. I don't want to say the word assigned because that's not the right word, but it's the closest word I could come up with. Is they're kind of assigned to us for this season, for a season of our life, a certain period of our life,
Hmm.
and then when that period's done, they'll step back, and a new spirit guide will come in to help us with our
They're
next phase of
requested.
evolution. Yeah,
They're
yeah,
requested.
whatever
Yep.
word. They kind of decide among themselves who's going to come in and assist us in this next phase or period of our life. Where ascended masters aren't necessarily members of your soul family, so they don't really know who you are, why you're here, how you're meant to grow and evolve as a soul, and what your purpose is, all that stuff. So, I mean, I channel them on occasion. I work with them in my healing sessions, but outside of like for my own personal use, I don't really channel ascended masters that often just because it's not necessary because I work with my spirit guides for my day-to-day kind of living and all that stuff. And
Right.
once in a while though, um, for the fun of it, I'll tune into like an ascended master. I'll be like, hey, I wonder how this ascended master's doing. I'll check in with them and they're like, hey, how's it going? Haven't heard from you in a while. And I'm like, yeah, just checking in, saying hi. And they're like, okay, hi. And then, it's not really, they don't really guide you, like, unless they're a member of your soul family. But I've found it rare that people's spirit guides are ascended masters, but sometimes it has happened that they can have an ascended master for a period or season of their life. Um, Another really important point, I'm going to take you through, if you're watching this live and you're able to do so, I'm going to get you to just close your eyes for a moment. I'm going to take you through a quick process. So imagine like you're walking down a busy city center street and some random person comes up to you and starts giving you advice about your life, telling you this, telling you that. And you're like, okay, I don't know why you're giving me advice about my life. Like, I don't know you, you don't know me, you don't know anything about my life. You seem like a nice person, but go away. You can go away. It's okay, fine. And then that would be what's called a random soul, like just a random soul in the astral realm that you just bump across, bump into. So you wouldn't take advice from them. And then you're walking down the street, and you might come across another person who, you see. Let's say it's an ascended master. So somebody you see, and they're on the other side of the street, and they're wearing like a white robe, and they look like all holy and all that, and they have maybe a following, like people following that person behind them, and you see them from the other side of the street, and you look at them, they look at you, and you're like, wow, that person looks like they've done a lot of positive things and they've helped a lot of people in a good positive way. So you honor them, but you're not going to go and ask them any advice because they don't know you, they don't know what's going on in your life, they don't know your situation, they're not, you've never met them before. So why would you take, guidance from a stranger who doesn't really know you that well? But you can still honor them and revere them. That would be like an ascended master. Okay. And then you continue walking down the street and you bump into somebody that you haven't seen from childhood. And you're like, hey, I know you. I remember we met, and how's it going? Good to see you again. And they start giving you advice. You're like, okay, well, thank you for the advice, but I haven't seen you in 20 years. But, anyway, so then you continue walking down the street, and then you bump into a family member, somebody that you see like, maybe 2 or 3 times a year at weddings and other family gatherings, things like that. And you're like, hey, how's it going? And then if they give you advice, then you could add a little bit more weight to it because they actually know you, they know a bit about what your life's going on, but you don't talk too often. So, but it's fine. And that would be like a member of your soul family. And then you continue walking down the street and you bump into somebody that you know really well. It's your mentor. And your mentor, you talk on a regular basis, a daily basis. They know what's going on in your life. They've been working with you for the last few weeks or months on different, whatever area of your life that they help you with. And they're like, hey, how's it going? Good, good. And their mentor's like, so did you do what I told you to yesterday? And you're like, yeah, actually I did that. Okay, good, good. Now I want you to do this, this, and this. And then later tonight, I want you to call me and we're going to talk and go over it again, and we're going to keep progressing on the trajectory that we're on. Okay, sounds good. Yeah, okay, I'll talk to you later tonight. And that's like your spirit guide. So it's really important to know that there's let me just recap that. There's 5 different kinds of souls in the astral realm that we can channel. There's random souls, ascended masters, loved ones, soul family members, and your spirit guides. Those are the 5 different kinds of souls. Um, Random souls, ascended masters, loved ones, soul family members, and spirit guides. The what, depending on which kind of soul it is going to determine what kind of weight we give them, and when, if and when they start trying to guide us and give us all that stuff. If an ascended master isn't a member of my soul family and they know nothing about me, I'm not going to go to them and start getting advice and guidance from them. As amazing and great as they are, they're awesome. But our spirit guides help us in our day-to-day living and our day-to-day life. They know why we're here, what we're meant to do with our lifetime, how we're meant to grow and evolve as a soul, and to help us navigate through that, to help us. So our spirit guides, let me say the bottom line is our spirit guides are always, always, always the number one go-to people first for spirits in the astral realm. And then after that, anyone else could come second, third, or fourth. And that's why I recommend that my students really try to get to know their spirit guides really well and to get to know each individual, and how each individual helps in many different areas of life. They don't just help in one area, they help in many different areas. Now, the
Mhm.
question I'm sure some of you are asking is, well, how do I do this? There's a whole bunch of processes that I do, but I'll give you like a short version of it. And with formal training and a mentor and stuff like that, it really helps. One of the things that you can do is you can find somewhere quiet to sit and just take a deep breath and then drop into your body. And then what you can do is you can ask all your spirit guides, ask everyone to just temporarily step far back. Ask them to step far back. And then what you can do for a bit is sit in that spiritual silence when there's nobody spiritually around you. Just feel what that feels like. And then what you can do is invite one spirit guide to come in, or if there's a certain topic or area of your life that you want to get more guidance on or insights about, you can invite that spirit guide to come in. And then what you can do is figure out where they are physically around you, locate where they are. Again, if we had the highly sensitive camera systems, we'd be able to capture that spirit guide on camera. So where are they physically around you? Oh, right here. Okay. And then once you know where they are physically around you, you lock in on them, increase your connection, and then do your best to start channeling them. Start receiving guidance, start receiving messages, and there's a whole bunch more after that that I can teach you that's beyond the scope of this, the Ask Ken show, but like things like different clairs and how to hone those different clair abilities and how to really increase your connection and get even, there's a whole training I did around energetic tethers and psychic links on how the connections work between you and souls and you and spirits. Super, super cool. But I want you to try your best to practice these on a regular basis and increase your connection, and then trusting the message that you're getting from your spirit guides. And if once in a while you want to connect with an ascended master, go for it. Would I take advice or guidance from ascended master? Not really, because they don't really know why I'm here and all that, but I still revere them, I still honor them, I respect them, I have tons of honor for them and all that stuff. But as for guidance, not too often. It's not that they would give bad guidance or missing, it's just that they don't know me and who I am and what's going on with my daily life, because they don't work with me on a daily basis. But my
Mhm.
spirit guides are like my mentors, and that's what they do. Yeah.
Yep. And your level 1 channeling really helped me connect with my spirit guides. So yeah, I
Yeah.
highly recommend, if you are looking to want to get a better connection with your guides, to take Ken's channeling courses
Yeah.
at channelinginc.com.
Yeah, you'll get this 50-page manual that comes with it, and then we cover all these topics that I just talked about, like how to connect with your soul, how to connect with your higher self, how to connect with your spirit guides, and then how to really, really increase your connections and your confidence. And like, because that's the biggest question that a lot of my students, they come to me is like, how do I know if it's just me making it up or if it's legitimately coming from my spirit guides? And then that's why I have exercise after exercise after exercise that I cover throughout all my, especially level 1. And then the reason why level 1 is important to know how to channel your own aspects is because that's building foundation for you to be able to do more advanced stuff, like channeling other people's spirit guides, other people's loved ones, how to do past life readings, how to do ancestral readings, and on and on and on. And then how to do like really powerful healing modalities later. But you need to know how to channel these aspects so that you're getting guidance when you are doing those more powerful channeling techniques. Yeah.
Good. Yes, and once again, I highly recommend taking his channeling courses. Absolutely love them. So we'll just go on to the next question. So will your spirit guides, while we're talking about spirit guides, they seem to be the topic of the night. So will your spirit guides not tell you something?
Yeah, okay. The context of this question is, and I struggled with this a lot in my early years, was I would want to know something like a certain thing, like, I want to know, is this person meant for me, or, this or that, or I don't know, whatever it is. There could be a gazillion things. And sometimes your spirit guides won't always tell you the answers because it's the timing, or maybe they want you to know other things first. It's a really important thing. What I've come is I've come to terms with the fact that my spirit guides aren't going to tell me everything, and it's because of my for my own highest and greatest good. So it's not that they're withholding information, it's more that they want to give you information that's applicable to where you're at in your journey right now. So let's say, for example, I want to know I want to know what's going to happen in step 7. And they're like, no, let's walk you through and help you with step 1 and 2 first, and when we get to step 7, then we'll get to step 7, like things like that. And that's a really important thing to know, is that to have that patience and to have that, like, okay, can I be okay with not knowing at this time? Can I be okay with that? Like, is that okay? And a lot of times, I know for me, I really struggled with that for years. So if you're one of those people, I get it. um, but instead, what I want you to focus on is, what's the next step? What is the guidance that you're getting right now? And take that guidance and do, again, it comes back to what I talked about earlier, is taking action. The most successful people that I've come across is the ones who take massive amounts of action. And there's that whole saying that says, God can't steer a ship that's not moving. And it's kind of like your spirit guide. So if you have a ship that's sitting in the dock and and you move the router, and it's just going like this, it's not going to change anything with the ship. The ship's just going to stay there and not do anything. But if the ship's moving and then you change the router, then the ship can be steered. And that's kind of like your spirit guides. And your spirit guides, they might not divulge something to you now because they want you to take these other steps. And then when they're helping to steer you and guide you, and then more reveals itself, and they're like, okay, now we can share this with you. You're like, okay, thank you. I understand why you didn't share this with me before. I wasn't ready. So it's not about them. It's not them doing it. It's you. It's to do with you. They always, your spirit guides always have your highest and greatest good in mind. Will only do things that are good for you and healthy for you, and that's why they want you to purposely be taking action and moving. This way, they can not only guide you and steer you along the way, but then they could also reveal new things as appropriate along your journey. It's kind of like, okay, now we're going to open up this door and show you this. And you're like, whoa, that's cool. And then once you kind of figure that out, work through that, then later on, they're going to go, okay, now we're going to open up this and show you this. And you're like, whoa, that's cool. Okay. And then you work through that for a while and you navigate through that. And then they open up another, door or whatever and show you all this other stuff. You're like, whoa. And they do that purposely. And if you're trying to get to door number 3, but you haven't even gone through door number 1 and 2, like, it doesn't make sense. So it's kind of like, let's say you're trying to learn math and you're like, oh, I just want to learn calculus. And it's like, no, let's teach you how to do like addition and subtraction, multiplication, division, things like that first. And then we'll get to the more calculus and fractal geometry and all the more advanced kind of math studies later. But let's get you through this first. And that's kind of oftentimes, it's not that they're hiding it from you. They're just trying to guide you, and get you to do these first things first as building blocks or as steps to get you to the next step and the next step and the next step.
Right.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So, so the next question is, how do I incorporate quick decisions into my channeling?
Yeah, this is a technique that I developed. It's called fast channeling. Fast channeling is really important. At the beginning, I want people to take it really slow. Take it slow when you're channeling. Just take your time. There's no rush. Oftentimes what happens is when we're brand new and we're trying to learn channeling, we try to rush things. We're like, okay, oh. And what happens though is we're too glitchy. And it's kind of like if you're learning to drive a car or something like that, And if you're going super fast, you're going like, shit's going to go down. Accidents are going to happen. And it's not, and with channeling, it's not like bad things are going to happen. You're just going to be all glitchy. You're going to be all like, ah. What I want my students to do at the very beginning when they're first learning to channel is take like take some time. Two things I recommend my students do is when you're learning to channel your spirit guides, is that when you're going through your day-to-day life, if you notice their presence and you notice them trying to get your attention, don't ignore them anymore. If like what I would do is back in the day when I was learning to channel, I'd be working like for the government or whoever, and I would feel my spirit guide's guidance, let's say at work, and then I'd be like, oh, okay, and I'd excuse myself, I'd go to the washroom, I'd sit in the stall, and I wouldn't even use the washroom. I would just sit there, close the door, find somewhere quiet, and I would channel my guides. Like, okay, what do you want? Is there a message for me? All that kind of stuff. And then other times, like I'd go to a park or sit in my car, or I'd go somewhere where it's quiet that I can, focus and get a connection with them. And then the other thing that I recommend is that you also allocate a certain amount of time to channeling your spirit guides on a daily basis. What I always, always, always do when I wake up in the morning, there's two, three things that I always do every morning before I touch my phone, before I go to the washroom, is I always put my hand on my soul and I tell myself I love me. So I go, I love you, Ken, and I tell myself I love me. And then the other thing I do is I feel all the things that I'm grateful for, and I start feeling gratitude and love for
Mhm.
myself and love for like where I'm at in my life and how beautiful life is and just anything I can think of that I'm grateful for. And then the other thing I do is I feel around me and I check to see if there's any spirit guides around me. And there's always at least one or two. And then I see which guides are around me, if anyone has a message for me, and then I start my day. And then throughout the day, what I recommend to my students is you also try to allocate a little bit of time to channeling your spirit guides. Try to find somewhere quiet, whether it's a park bench or somewhere at home or anywhere, even, 5 minutes. It could be in the washroom, like it could be anywhere. It could be just like, I'm just going to take a few minutes and just close my eyes, feel where my spirit guide is around me. Do, 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 do. Oh, this guide's here. Okay, increase my connection and start trying to receive messages. And then take your time though at the beginning. And then over time though, you want to start practicing increasing your speed. And the reason why is because eventually you want to get to a point where you can channel anywhere, anytime, on the spot, in the moment, any situation, any circumstance. And then start channeling with your eyes open. Because I want all my students to get to where I'm at, which is where you can be in having a full-blown conversation with somebody and you can be channeling your guides, their guides, and you know what's going on, and you're just a live channeling where you can do it on the spot. So have you ever had a time when someone comes to you and they ask you a question and you're like, "Oh, I need to time to go sit with this and think about this before I answer." But when you have fast channeling, what you can do is you can actually live channel the answer right then and there on the spot. Because oftentimes you
Mhm.
don't have the opportunity to do this. You don't have the opportunity to go, oh, wait, just let me go home and meditate for an hour and then I'll come back and give you an answer. It's like, no, no, you have to know the answer like right away, or else that opportunity, that window passes you
Mhm.
by and you miss it. And
Yep.
that's where it's really important to be able to do fast channeling, is because you have to be able to do it on the fly in the moment.
Yep.
How do you get to that point? Is I recommend doing it nice and slow and relaxed at the beginning in a nice conducive environment if you can, where it's quiet, there's no noise, you can close your eyes, you can invite your guides to come in. And then within a few weeks or months, not even like, and try it outside, try it
Yep.
also when you're in your everyday life. And that's how I got really good at it, was I would just practice it at work. I'd be like, okay, I'm at work. Okay, well, let's see what happens here. I have this whole concept. It's called the sandbox concept. The sandbox concept is you use every environment as your sandbox to try and play and experiment with channeling. So, for example, too many times people can, they're like, oh no, I can't channel because it's not a perfect environment. No, no, no. Even more reason to want to practice channeling. For example, um, let's say when you were a kid, what would you do? You'd go to a park and there'd be a sandbox there, and you would try to build some stuff with the sand, and you go, okay, let's try this. No, that didn't work. How about this? No, that didn't work. How about that? No, that didn't work. How about this? Ooh, that kind of worked. How about this? No, that didn't work. How about this? No, that didn't work. How about this? Ooh, that kind of worked. How about this? Ooh, that worked even better. Whoa, look at this. And you start experimenting and trying things in that sandbox when you were a kid. And then maybe another day, another time, you go to another park, totally different sandbox, and you try building things in that sandbox, and you're like, did this, how about this? No. How about this? No. How about this? Ooh, that kind of worked. How about this? No. How about this? Oh, that kind of worked. How about this? Ooh, look at that. That worked really well. Look at that. Whoa. And it's a totally different sandbox, totally a different environment, but you're experimenting with this and you're trying these things in these different environments. Same concept comes to channeling. I want you to purposely try channeling in different environments.
Mm-hmm.
Try it when you're at the grocery store. Like you could be like what I do is when I go to the grocery store, I don't even care what the labels say, anything like that. I could just like be walking down the aisles and be like, okay, which cereals are good and healthy for me? I'll be like, okay, that one, okay, that one, yeah, okay. And then how about the soups? Okay, the cans of soup, and you could take all the labels off all the cans of soups. Don't do it. That'd be kind of funny. Security, all five, please. We have
Yeah.
someone who took all the labels
Don't
off
do
the
that
cans of
until
soup.
you get home, and then take all the labels and put them in your cupboard and see. Have some fun.
Yeah, and then but because of channeling, I could just tune into what's the contents of inside there, and I don't need to look at the ingredients or anything. I could just tune into it, and my body, my spirit guides would let me know if that's something that's good and healthy for me to consume. And then so I can be doing this at the channeling at the grocery store. I could be channeling when I'm out with friends. I could be channeling while I'm driving. By the way, if you're
Mhm.
channeling while you're driving, please keep your eyes open. Highly recommended. Don't say I didn't tell you.
Yeah.
You could be channeling when you're having family get-togethers, or hanging out with friends, or even when you're
Mhm.
dancing. Like channeling doesn't always have to be serious. Like I'll be like at a dance, ecstatic dance or something like that, dancing, having fun. I'm totally like channeling while I'm doing it. And it just, channeling doesn't always, but again, my point is that they're different sandboxes, different environments for you to experiment with your channeling abilities, and then also work on increasing your speed over time. Increase your speed over time so that you can really start to hone your abilities and do what I call live channeling. Like everything I'm doing right now is I'm channeling. I'm channeling live. And the reason why I put on the Ask Ken shows is to emulate for my students who've taken my training on this is what you can do. You can eventually get to a point when you can do what I'm doing, which is live channeling. So I'm channeling right now what to say, what not to say, how to say it. Do I add another topic? Do I elaborate on this topic, or do I go on to another one? And you can all do this eventually with a little bit of formal training, a little bit of practice. And I do recommend, though, when it comes to practice, try to do it on a regular basis. The thing that I've noticed over the years of training my students is that they're not consistent. Even if you just take 5 minutes once a day, I recommend more than that, like at least 5 minutes 2 or 3 times a day or whatever it might be. But the more important, I would prefer you to do 5 minutes once a day, every day for a month, rather than big bursts of it. Like, oh, I'm going to spend 2 hours and channel my spirit guides one day, but then you don't do it for another 2 weeks. And then you big burst of channeling for 1 hour, and then you don't do it for another 3 weeks. I'd prefer you to do it consistently a little bit every day than those big bursts. And if you want to throw in a big burst once in a while, that's great. But the consistency is the more important thing that I would say. And the ironic thing is when you don't feel like practicing channeling is probably the times you need to the most. When you're going through struggles, you're going through emotional distress, or there's circumstances or situations going on, please channel your spirit guides. That's when they want to actually help you the most, is when you're struggling in life. They want to help and support you and help navigate through whatever circumstance you're going through.
Right. Good. Thank you. So we've probably got a time for a few more questions here. So the next one is, and you've already been kind of talking about it, how to incorporate it in your everyday. But are there any other different ways that you can channel your guides in your everyday life?
Um, I think I just covered that.
You covered every
What's
much. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what's
No,
another
just
question?
it was a question, so figured we'd see if there was any more about that. Um, are your spirit guides always on the same side of you when they come through?
Yes, good question. Okay, I've had so many of my students tell me this over the years. It's kind of funny, like makes me laugh. Though they think I've had one lady be like, oh, all my spirit guides, my female spirit guides are on this side of me because that's my feminine side. All my male guides are on this side of me because that's my. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Or I had another guide, another person. He was like, oh yeah, this spirit guide's always in this place. I'm like, you sure about that? They're like, yeah, yeah, they're always in the same place, and this other guy's always here. And they think that their spirit guides are static. Let me give you some context. Is way back in 2000, in 2001 my dad died, and in 2004 he became my spirit guide, and he actually taught me how to channel so I could teach others how to channel. And when I first started learning to channel, and with my dad helping me, my spirit guide, I would be sitting there all quiet in a room, and I would notice his presence, and his presence was always in this upper corner. That was kind of his like favorite spot. And then every once in a while though, I would notice that he would be on a different side of me. Let's say he'd be over here, and I'd be like, oh, okay, that's different. But and I knew it was the same soul because I could tell the what's called the energy signature of the soul. The energy signature is very
Mhm.
distinct
Yeah.
with my dad in this
Yeah.
case. Yeah, and so I knew it was the same soul. But he could move like, and sometimes he'd be over here or different places around me.
Yeah.
But most of the time, in his case, he had a favorite kind of spot he liked to hang out, which is in that upper corner. But that doesn't mean that they're always going to be in that same spot. Um,
Right.
like, okay, let me say two things kind of that'll really help to clarify. Is I had one client where we're doing a one-on-one session, and it was at a spirit expo, and the spirit guide came in, and I'm like, "Where's your spirit guide physically around you?" And they're like, "Oh, right here." I'm like, "Okay," and I'm like, "Oh, okay," because I'm channeling their guide as well, and I'm like, I'm letting their
Hmm.
spirit guides guide the session, and I'm like, "Okay, so where's your spirit guide now?" And they're like, "What do you mean?" Like they've moved. Where are they now? I'm like, "Oh, right here." I'm like, "Yeah." And then I'm like, "Where's your spirit guide now?" And they're like, "Oh, they're behind me." I'm like, "Yeah." And where's your spirit guide now? And they're like, "Over here." I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Why are they doing this?" They're like, "I don't know." I'm like, "We'll find out. Ask." And they're like, "So I don't always think they have to be on the same place, the same position all the time." I'm like, "Yeah, they're in spirit form. They could be wherever they want. They
Hmm.
don't have to be in
Yep.
just one spot. Like they could be in the wall if they want. Like because they're in spirit form, they could, they don't have to be in that same spot.
Right.
Some guides, my experience has been most guides will just be wherever, but some spirit guides do might have a favorite spot, but don't assume if that they're always going to stay in that same spot. Um,
Yeah. I have
so
I
that's an
have one
important thing to know.
that's in a favorite spot. I have one that tends to have a favorite spot, but yeah, but they'll move every once in a while for sure. And then the other
Yeah,
ones, they're all kind of I got to look for them for sure. Yeah.
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 The biggest thing, more important thing to know is not where they are fit, like if they have a favorite spot or not. The more important thing to know about a spirit guide is what's called their energy signature components, their energy signature. And at first, when I first started teaching people to channel, is I thought there was just one, like, okay, what's the energy signature of this guy? And what's the energy signature of this guy? And I thought it was just one thing. And then over the years, as I'm channeling and teaching people to channel, I'm realizing, wait a second, the energy signature of a spirit guide actually has many different components. How do they feel? How do they sound? What's their, and we could go through the different clairs, but then there's also a lot of other things like what is their presence like? What is their personality like? What kind of like past life did you have? What's your relationship life like? And on and on and on and on. Whereas this other spirit guide is going to feel totally different. Its energy signature and its energy signature components are going to be totally different. And that's important to know because when it doesn't matter where they are physically around you, you can go, okay, okay, who's around me? Oh, it's this. There's a spirit guide over here. Okay, which guide is it? Oh, it's this guide. How do I know? Because of this, and this. Where this other guide who was over here last time, but another day, another time, you're like, okay, I feel like a spirit guide around me. Where's this one? Oh, this one is over here behind me. How do I know? Oh, it's this one because of this, and this. And the energy signature is the more important thing than where they are physically around you.
Hmm.
Actually, it's the most important thing of all the things is trying to identify your energy signature. And it goes back to the point that I made earlier, which is you always want to know who you're channeling because then you know what kind of weight to give it if they're starting to talk to you, give you advice and stuff like that. And that's
Yeah.
where, um,
100%.
yeah, that's where when you know your spirit guide's energy signature. And another reason why I start people of getting to know the spirit guide team way back in level one before they do more advanced stuff, is because if later on when we teach more advanced channeling on how to channel other things, then I want my students to know who their spirit guide team is, because when my students aren't in a safe container workshop kind of environment and they're out there living their life, if something not of the light tries to come in, those things could be deceptive, deceiving. They could try to manipulate the person, whatever. But if they know their spirit guide team, they could check with their spirit guide, go, hey, is this thing coming in? Is it okay for me to channel? Is it of the light? Is it healthy for me? Is it safe for me to channel? And they will let you know, because why? You have a known trusted source and you know your spirit guides really well. And that's why I start my students off with learning to channel their spirit guides first, because then you
Right.
know a trusted source. And then you know you can confirm with your spirit guides this, you can confirm with your spirit guides that, and you're always channeling in a safe way. I want
Yeah.
to give a shout out to a couple people. So Shelly, thank you for tuning in. And we have Cheryl Audubon. Sorry, I always say the last name wrong, but um, and Cheryl wants to say, I really enjoyed the channeling classes I took with you way back in the day. I learned it's so important. I have learned so much from you. And so we talk about like synchronicities and serendipities. Cheryl is one of my favorite people in the whole world. She's amazing. She's awesome. And she's taken my training, way back. I think it was when was I in Edmonton at that time in Canada? Anyways, but it was a long, long time ago. And I was just thinking of her the other day, and then here she is here today, right? And one of the things, any of you who are watching this, the three main commitments that I made to myself when I first started teaching people how to channel and spirituality, one is that I would always live what I teach. I'm not going to be one of those hypocritical teachers that say, oh, well, you just do this, you do that, but I'll do something different. No, I always live what I teach. The other thing that I always recommend is that, or for me anyways, I made the commitment that I would never get to a point where I think I know it all. There's always more to learn with channeling. Like I don't want to
Yeah.
be one of those
Always,
know-it-alls.
always. I mean,
Yeah, and
just
I'm
in
like,
life general. In life
yeah,
general, there's always just more stuff to learn for sure.
but like what I've seen is sometimes there's people out there that I've seen, they're like, oh, I know it all now and I'm the master and I'm this and that. And they think like they're very pompous and all. I'm like, no, no, no. I'm just like you. I'm still exploring. I'm still learning. This is all like there's so much more
Hmm.
for me to learn that I'm learning on a regular, weekly, daily basis. And it's so exciting. I love it. And then that's the third thing is no matter what, keep that childlike enthusiasm about spirituality. Like when this stuff happens, instead of it just being like, yeah, okay, whatever. No, be like, what? Wow. Like I
Yeah.
was just thinking of you and here you are. So we talked about manifestation earlier and
Yep.
here she is. She just showed up and I was literally just thinking of her like 2 days ago. And now all of a sudden
Yep.
she appears on the Ask Ken show. Like that's manifestation at its best.
Yep.
But also the more important thing is keep that like, and your spirit guides, you can check with them now, they want you to keep that enthusiasm. They want you to keep that excitement, like that, like that wow factor. Like this stuff
Yep.
never gets old to me. Every time like something like this happens, where the pieces are moving, the intricacies, and they move together, and then they connect, and I'm like, what? How cool is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. And you were also talking earlier about the sandbox, right? And playing in the sandbox and experimenting and have fun with it.
Yeah,
Like just
yeah.
yeah,
And
play
even
with
to
it,
this
try
day, I'm
different
still doing
things
that.
and yeah, take what sticks and leave what doesn't. Like there's no rules or regulations around it. It's all about you and you building your connection with yeah. So
Awesome. With that, we're going to wrap
with
up the
that,
Ask Ken show. If you'd like to know more about
we
me and
are.
what I do, please check out my website, channelinginc.com. Have a wonderful day, everyone. I look forward to seeing you all soon. Talk to you soon.
Yep. Take care. Thank you.